Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Salty World Podcast. Right now, it's Christmas Eve, and I felt like this would be a good time to talk about community, how that's a really important part of Flesh and Blood. But usually, I talk about investment, collecting, and gameplay, but without community, you don't have any of that. And then, it being Christmas, it's usually time you spend with family and friends, and I think Flesh and Blood has been the biggest drive to meet a lot of people for me in the Seattle area. So, for example, is I moved to Seattle 2019 for a new job, and I knew almost no one out here. Nonetheless, is usually try to find and meet people because it's good to be around people, do fun things, go out and have fun. All that you don't want to be stuck home all the time. But the first half of 2020, we had COVID come about, and things were just kind of closed down, which is not fun. I found about Flesh and Blood in May 2020, and I grew obsessed with the cards and started collecting it quite a bit. And I played a few games with the people I knew locally, Nick and some other friends, but it was only like 2 or 3 people. We didn't have a community out, but I had a game that I knew I loved. I started collecting it, but I wanted to actually play it too. So the first thing I did was I wanted to find what communities are out there. Again, I don't find too many online communities and all that, but it's my first TCG game I played in many, many years, and I wanted to find people who had similar interests to me. So the first place I went to was Reddit, and then I eventually found out there was a Flesh and Blood fan page on Facebook, and there was marketplaces in the North America marketplaces and even overseas. And eventually I found the Wall Street channel because I started investing in it. Now, I used to like Wall Street quite a bit back in the day when it was strictly Flesh and Blood. Now it's all over the place, but that's a different story. But nonetheless, Flesh and Blood content, that's where I used to go for all my news on speculations and all that. But this is a conversation about community. So Facebook and even Discord, I kept seeing pictures of people playing in New Zealand and Australia, and I wanted to do the same in Seattle. I mean, I got to see the people playing calling, armory events. Looked like so much fun, and I really wanted that out here, and we didn't have it out here in Seattle. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I should do something about it instead of just complain and not only have 2 people to play with. And I think anybody in the same circumstance should do the same thing. So starting a community might sound difficult, but it really is not. It just takes some time on your part. But getting the community hub set up is not that difficult. Again, people say, I don't have any people to play with a few hundred miles from me, or my store's not carrying it, or whatever. Again, that's less likely a problem now than it was a year ago, but nonetheless, here's some options that you could do to help grow the game in your area. Now, first of all, if you have no one to play with locally at first, you have the cards, and you want to play the game and you have no one to play with, you could use Tabletop Simulator. There's Discord, where you can find games, pick up games, and have a lot of fun. But the best option, in my opinion, is start your own local group, as I was saying. Now, the Facebook Seattle group was started in about 5 minutes. I went to Facebook, said, hey, let's create a group. What should a group be called? Flesh and Blood Seattle. All right, that wasn't too hard to come up with a name. And then that way people knew where to find it. So I could have named it Flesh and Blood Washington, Flesh and Blood Pacific Northwest, many different options. Nonetheless, Flesh and Blood Seattle, because that was a major city near me. So named it that. Now I had a place where people could look on Facebook and say, hey, is there a community near me? Let me type in Flesh and Blood Seattle, and it pops up. But also is when you start a group, is I recommend you post it to Discord, and you post it to the Flesh and Blood fan page. Say, hey, I like Flesh and Blood. I don't have anybody to play with me, but I started a group near me, and here's what it is. Again, you could always see if there's groups in your area first, and you can reach out to the fan page to see if there is a group. Start off there, and if no one responds, create your own group. But I gotta say, the Facebook page is good for posts, maybe events and all that, but it's not really that great for communication as a group. So I highly recommend creating a Discord to go along with your group. Again, the Facebook page is much easier to search than Discord group, but on the Facebook page, you could add gatekeeping methods, such as when I first made the group, we had a bunch of people from international communities join. Great. Didn't seem like a problem at first. I didn't really care if some people joined because they're curious about Seattle. Whatever. But then we started getting foreign posts from different YouTube creators and people in Los Angeles trying to promote their events and all that. And I had to regulate, and I didn't want to. So I had to start deleting posts that were not relevant to the Seattle area. So eventually, I decided to make a gatekeeping method is, hey, we want to keep it locals only because we're trying to promote local activities. So it wasn't trying to say we don't like people from outside our community, but this is a local group to try to promote growth of the community, players to be able to talk to each other, maybe sell cards locally and all that other stuff. So I recommend you add some gatekeeping methods to your local group to keep it local because that's the whole point of it. If people want to talk about Flesh and Blood and they're not from your area, they could go to the fan page or Discord page and have many different global options as well. But again, when you gatekeep on that, if someone doesn't live in your area, they say, hey, I visit your area once in a while, or I plan on moving there, great, add them to the group. Perfect. And then when they come, welcome them to your game. Play with them. But nonetheless, as I mentioned before, is Discord is the most important route to get the chat going. So the Facebook page is my searchable option where I pinned the link to the Discord group. That way people can find and start chatting with us. And we try to welcome anybody that joins. We say hi to them, let them know how to get decks going, and all the other fun stuff. Now, growing the group can be slow, but keep at it. Now, again, when I started the group, Flesh and Blood was not going through the big boom. It was shortly after Crucible of War came out, and no stores in my area were carrying it. Nonetheless, as if you have the cards and you have people who want to play it, you can go to a game store and still play the game and just have fun. You might not have an armory event, but you could grab dinner, grab some beers, play some games. And now, when we first started the Flesh and Blood group, we'd play with 4 to 6 people every week at Mox Boarding House, Bellevue. By the end of 2020, we had about 15 people playing there. Then they closed down things for a little bit again. Very, very annoying. But in earlier 2021, maybe Marchish, things started opening up back again. And then local Ryan in Seattle group put me in touch with the Zulu's game shop. And they were opening Flesh and Blood. They were carrying Unlimited. And they wanted to host armory events. So I started coordinating with the manager of the store to help promote events. And then we're able to get up to like 20 people playing a week at the local armories. People were excited. People wanted to play. And again, people want to play in person without armories. But when you have an armory event on top of it, people like winning prizes, play mats, and all other stuff. So that really helped grow the group more too. And also, it's like you want to find people that want to grow the group, but you also want to find stores that want to grow the group too. By the time Monarch came out, I think April-ish, we had about 50 people in our group. Now, showing up weekly, post them at the events, gauging locals and stores helps build up the community. Again, this takes quite a bit of time, but you'll eventually find people who are just as passionate about you, and they'll help grow the community with you as well too. So Discord, I used to post on it, people post on it, but now that we have 172 people in it, we have different roles to help moderate the group. So I think we have like 3 or 4 moderators. Nothing too crazy, but it's just to help, regulate the different Discord pages and all that other aspects. And it helps keep the communication focused and all other aspects too, so people can find information they're looking for. Now, currently, there are many stores carrying Flesh and Blood. There's many armory events several times a week, and you can find a store near you in the Seattle area that will have an armory event. Now, it being Christmas Eve, I find this is the time that, even Thanksgiving too, is the time you usually meet up with friends and family. As I mentioned before, I moved to Seattle. Didn't necessarily have any friends or family here, except I just knew a few people. But I consider a lot of people I've met Flesh and Blood as friends. I see them. I look forward to hanging out with them. And it's really built a bond that I wouldn't have got otherwise if I was not playing Flesh and Blood. So when you go to a store and you see the same people playing every single week, you go to many stores, you keep seeing them, they start organizing events, you start traveling to other events with them, either in carpooling, or you meet up at the professional events in Las Vegas or Florida, as I did this year. You start getting a bond with these people, and you look forward to playing with them and talking about the game quite a bit, either through Discord or in person. Now, I've been playing video games my whole life, and I play quite a bit online, and I don't think I've ever met somebody online that I consider a friend. Don't get me wrong, is chatting through Facebook and all those people I consider friends because I talk to them on a daily basis. But I'm talking about when I play a video game online. Like if I were to play Call of Duty, I usually don't want to meet any of the people I play against because they're usually jerks. It's just very toxic, negative nature of the online plays because you know you're not meeting the people. Now, when you meet someone in person, uh, you're likely to meet them many, many, many times. And when you meet the same person many times, you get to start talking with them. And you create friends that way, which is a great part about the Flesh and Blood playing in person aspect of the game is it's very easy to be disconnected. It's easy to be a jerk when you're online. But when you're in person, you tend to be nicer. Most part, there are assholes everywhere. But you're more likely to make friends with somebody you meet in person and build a bond. Now, again, many people I've met online through interactions and sales and other stuff too. I call friends and have met in person too at events. But the video game or game aspect of it, when you play in person, you're more likely to develop a bond with that person. So to end this though is I think Flesh and Blood community is very important. I really like the aspects they encourage play and all that. Now there are other games or not games, whatever you want to call them, that are mainly for collectability and all other aspects. So going back to the investment aspect of things is I could look for anything to shield to make a quick buck, right? But that's not the point of it. Now, Bronson did a video on this recently, which brought this to my attention is, yeah, some games or card things out there that might have pictures that people may or may not like tend to get investors in there. But that's not a game. That's not a community. That's just a, hey, let's see how we can do rocket emoji to the moon, all that other stuff. Now, Flesh and Blood went through that, but Flesh and Blood's core principles was always to play in person, build a community, and build a bond. That was the point of it, and that's why I love Flesh and Blood. And that's why I love the community around Flesh and Blood. I love talking about Flesh and Blood. Every time I meet someone and play a game, I have tons of fun. Now, I'm looking so much forward to Everfest, PvE, and other sets, because it's just going to help get more people in the community, and it's also going to help, create more bonds, and it's going to have more reasons to keep meeting in person, because there's always more events to go to, always a new deck to try out, always something new to do, and that's what I love about LSS. That's what I love about Flesh and Blood, is doing that. So, sticking to Flesh and Blood is, I care about the people I play with, and I always welcome someone new. I always get excited when I see a new face. I'm like, hey, you're one of us now. That's awesome. You're here. So, back to it though is, I have a strong commitment to Flesh and Blood because I love it. That's the reason why I have a big collection on it. But back to the Christmas spirit of things though is, I consider these people friends now, right? And friends and family is about spending time with Christmas on that. LSS had the whole, CF Bobble Christmas theme on that. Not everybody loves Christmas on that too. But I find that tie to meeting in person and celebrating the game together to be a huge aspect of my life right now. And it makes me really happy to, whenever I go to an event, to play with people. Even if I get my ass kicked, I still have a great time. Because when someone kicks my ass in Flesh and Blood, I'm like, wow, you put together a really good deck. Maybe I'll try that out in the future, or maybe I'll try to find a way to beat you. But going into 2022, I don't want people to forget about what Flesh and Blood is about. It's not about free attendees. Again, making money is always a good thing, but it's a game first, right? So think about the memories you have of the game, the people you've met, and the people you will meet in the future because of this game. Now, not maybe this game doesn't have as big of an impact on your life as everybody has as mine, but just think about what the game has done for you, what it will do for you, and just have fun with it. Enjoy life, have a good Christmas, and remember, build a community around you. Don't be afraid to reach out to anybody. A lot of friendly people. Ignore the assholes, and start your own community if you don't have one. And if you want to start a community and not sure what to do, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to help send you some pointers. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.